Hello, welcome back to the Cars.co.za YouTube channel. My name is Chira de Siena. I think that's how you pronounce it. We'll put it on the screen. Thanks for joining me. I'm going to be reviewing the latest Toyota Fortuner. It's called the GRS. And because time is precious and life is short, I'm going to try and do this in a concise and efficient way so that you can get all the information you need and then carry on with your life. But before I do that, do head over to Cars.co.za or get our app and browse our massive selection of Fortuners. So if you're looking for a used one, you'll almost certainly find one on our site that suits your budget and maybe is the right color that you were looking for as well. We'll put a link to that stock in the description below. Okay, let's go. New-ish Toyota Fortuner GRS review. Cars.co.za. Right, let's discuss the differences in price and spec between this and a normal 4x4 VX 2.8 GD6 Fortuner. So the GRS is the most expensive Fortuner you can buy, and they've managed to get it under R1,000,000 by exactly R1,000. So for 999,000 Rand, you can pick up this, the new Halo model in the range, and that makes it 38,000 Rand more expensive than the VX, which used to be the top of the range. So this is the most special Fortuner you can buy. And I must say, over the years, this car's been on the market for 9, maybe 10 years now. The car has improved significantly. And one of the improvements has been to the road holding and the handling. Now, early Fortuners, they got the nickname of the 4 turnover because quite a few of them rolled over. And on that initial Gen 1 Fortuner, Toyota actually issued an update to try and fix the situation. The Gen 2 didn't seem to suffer from that issue. But over the years, they have made more and more suspension tweaks, and the car has got a lot better in terms of its on-road handling, its ride comfort, and its off-road handling as well. Now, for the GRS edition, they crank that up a notch, and one of the mechanical differences between this and a normal Fortuner is you now get monotube shocks on this GRS edition. Now, I had never heard of a monotube shock, and so I went on the internet and did some research. And a monotube shock is different to a normal shock or a twin tube shock because it has one chamber which keeps the pressurized gas and the hydraulic liquid separate. Now, apparently, look, I'm not an engineer, I'm just going off what I've researched here. But apparently a monotube shock has more consistent damping, has better heat dissipation, and suffers from less cavitation. I also have no idea what that means. But the effect is that it has improved on-road cornering and handling ability. It's more comfortable without being more firm, and it also improves road holding on gravel roads. Right, to test out this new fancy suspension, I have come to a gravel road. Not a bad gravel road, not a great one though, quite a few potholes and everything. So, time to live vicariously through me as I tell you what it's like to drive a Fortuner on a gravel road. It's good, it is actually quite good, I must say. They've managed to minimize jiggle. You know how I've said this before in videos, so this is a Bakkie-Based SUV, so it's a cabin on a chassis, and you tend to get quite a lot of jiggle as the two things sort of move around. But this is good. Yeah, I mean, you could just smash long distance gravel roads in this. Very comfortable, good road holding. I think these new shocks are, yeah, they do what they say they do. So for a bit of context on where this GR nameplate comes from and why Toyota is now using it on more of their models like their 4x4s. The head of Toyota, Akio Toyoda, is actually a fascinating guy. He helped develop the Lexus LFA. He's a bit of an enthusiast racing driver, and he's been spearheading Toyota's push into making really exciting cars. Some of the coolest modern cars out there, which we've driven on the channel, the GR Yaris, GR Corolla, GR Supra, that's all because of him, basically. So essentially what Toyota's done is built the GRMN, Gazoo Racing Masters of the Nordschleife. I think that's actually what it stands for. So it's like an AMG car or a BMW M or an Audi RS, where you get these proper GR cars. But then, like BMW, you get an M Sport, or you get an AMG line, or you get an S line on an Audi. They've now turned the GR into a sort of a line, like a trim line. And that's why you're getting these special editions. So that's where it comes from. So this is not a full GR car. It obviously hasn't been developed on the Nürburgring, well, not that I know of. Well, that could be quite fun, actually, drive a Fortuner around the Nürburgring. But it is a GR line, and obviously comes with visual and technical improvements. So you can have a GRS in any color as long as it's Attitude Black or Pearl White. I'm driving obviously an Attitude Black one. You also get nice dark rims with nicer tires on them. It's the Dunlop Grand Trek 85, which is a 2,800 Rand tire. So it's not massively expensive, but it is a slightly nicer, more off-roady tire than you get on a normal Fortuner. And then you also get a lot of badges around the car which say GRS on them. You get this nice steering wheel which says GR, and then the seats have nice stitching and they also say GR. And that's pretty much what you get for your 38,000 Rand. The Hilux engine that's in here, the 2.8 GD6, has been cranked up now to match the Hilux GRS power output of 165 kilowatts. Now, Toyota has an interesting approach to how often they bring out a new generation of a car. So most manufacturers probably 5 to 7 years between generations. Toyota's like, amateurs. They do like 9 to 10 between generations, and we'll probably get a new Fortuner maybe next year and a new Hilux, maybe the year after, who knows. But in Toyota's defense, they do constantly improve the car while it's out on the road and on the market. So by buying a Fortuner now, you really are getting the best version of the Fortuner. It's also the most expensive version they've ever sold of the Fortuner, but it is almost certainly and undoubtedly the best version. And people really do love these cars, and I get it. One of the mathematical reasons why Fortuner makes sense is because statistically it just suffers less depreciation than some of its rivals. So for instance, if you look at some of the data we have from our site, a Fortuner depreciates by about 7% a year, whereas an Everest depreciates by about 9% a year. So you're looking at maybe losing over 5 years about 200k in a Fortuner, whereas in an Everest you might lose about 300k. But take into account that the equivalent Everest is 100,000 Rand more than this top spec Fortuner. Although Ford does insist that the Everest is no longer a Fortuner rival, it's actually now a Prado rival. And there is some merit to that. But I think in the general mind of the public, Fortuner, Everest, Isuzu, MUX, Mitsubishi, Pajero Sport are all sort of competing in one segment. Quick bit of comments on the interior. Nice steering wheel, sporty. The infotainment system has now caught up to the year 2015 when Android Auto was first introduced into cars by Hyundai. So you now finally do get Android Auto and Apple CarPlay in your Fortuner, which is nice. I find the cabin of Fortuners quite cramped. You get into an Everest, it's a much bigger car, it's way more spacious inside. I don't know, I find there's not much elbow room, not much leg room. I don't find the driving position great. It doesn't seem to put people off. For me, it would put me off a bit. It does feel a bit dated in here in terms of the dimensions of the vehicle and the interior and features as well. So something I didn't know about, which I just found in the car, is an extra safety feature that Toyota have put into the Fortuner. So if you push that down, it locks the handbrake, and then you use this key to get it up, which is quite cool. I wonder how effective that is actually, but it's nice that they have added that as standard to the Fortuner, little extra safety feature. And also you can put the key off, so you can lock the car and make the key go to sleep so that it can't be cloned. I don't actually know how to do that, but you can do it, which is nice. Now, something that hasn't changed over the car's 9-year lifespan is the way the back seats and the third row of seats tumble and move and fold and everything. So because I'm old and fat and tired, I can't be asked to deal with that again. So what we're going to do now is introduce an earlier version of Chiro from a long time ago who did all of that stuff when he was more flexible. And we're going to cut to him now. So Chiro, please take it away and show the lovely audience how the seats work in the back of the Fortuner. Thanks, man. Now, while nothing has really changed in the interior, it still remains a very well appointed back seat, or actually this is the second row of seats technically in a Fortuner. So a few nice things to point out. You've got a 3-point harness for the center passenger. You've got this fancy drink holder which comes out of the center armrest. 2 USB ports down here, and they are the type C, so those are quite functional. You've got a 100 watt 220 volt plug down here, but it's just a 2-pin. I don't know why a lot of manufacturers don't put a South African plug point there when they put a 220 volt, and I've always wondered why. You've got shopping hooks here, that's quite useful as well. The rear passengers have their own aircon control. They can set their own temperature and put it in an automatic program with air vents over here for themselves as well. And then these seats fold forward on rails, so you can make more space for the rear passengers or more boot space. And then traditionally these would tumble forward and get out of your way, so you could get into there, or you could make a massive load area with the rear seats folded up to the windows. That's some pretty good back seats. Once you open the electric tailgate on this top spec VX model, you will encounter the boot area. And this has been the subject of much debate in the 4x4 and adventure lifestyle world. And that's because in this segment, this is the only car where the rear seats, the third row, fold up against the windows. Now, in other cars, such as the Everest and the Mitsubishi, for instance, the rear seats fold into the floor. And what that means is that you lose quite a lot of boot height. So my point of view on this debate is that this setup actually works. You get a massive boot and you still get your third row of seats as well. Yes, they are a little bit of a faff. You have to unhook that, then make sure that the legs are out and clip that down, and then fold this up as well. And your rear passengers don't have much. They've got air vents, but they don't have drinks holders, for instance. But you've still got a bit of boot as well behind this third row of seats. So Toyota have stuck to this formula forever. I don't see them changing it. You either love it or you hate it. It does have some pros and cons, but in my opinion, it works. Thanks, Chiro. Anyway, back to the review. So I've pretty much covered all the differences that you get with the GRS, and in a bit we'll go into some market comparison with its competitors. But one rather sensitive but important issue I'd like to talk about with you, and I'd really appreciate your insights and experiences in the comments, I'll join you in the comment section, is the theft risk and the safety risk around Fortuners and Hiluxes. Now, they aren't the only cars in South Africa which suffer from a theft risk or increased theft risk. But statistically, and according to many reports from the police and private security companies, this is the most hijacked car in South Africa, or stolen, this and the Hilux. Now, there are a few reasons for that, and some of them you just cannot blame Toyota. So there's obviously demand on the black market from our neighboring countries. And also, these cars just have a great reputation. You know, no self-respecting criminal wants an unreliable car, you know. Want rugged reliability, and that's what Toyota does very well. They make good cars which last a long time, so they're in demand. Then of course there are so many on the road that, like the Volkswagen Polo for instance, it creates a huge black market for parts, and that also drives theft and hijacking. But then there is another huge factor which doesn't often get spoke about very much, but as with the 3-liter D4D, which used to be in the Hiluxes and the Fortuners, and also used in the Toyota Quantums, the taxis that are so popular in South Africa. As of 2019, Toyota started putting the 2.8 GD6, this engine, the Hilux engine, into Quantums. Now, you can't really blame them for making a decision like that, because in motoring manufacturing, you have to use economies of scale to make this whole business work. It's also very expensive to tool factories. These are all built in Prospecton, in Durban. And all manufacturers do this. They all do part sharing, engine sharing, platform sharing. If you buy a Volkswagen Golf and an Audi, it's basically the same car, Audi A3. But the thing is, taxis in this country obviously are used significantly. They do very high mileage. They live hard lives. Quantums just live hard lives. They work hard. And so those cars' engines tend to suffer and explode sometimes. And the turbos go and all the rest of it. And then the cheapest way to get parts is to steal a Hilux or a Fortuner. And that's another factor that drives theft. So I would like to know from you, given all of that, if you're shopping in this segment, have you been discouraged from buying a Fortuner or a Hilux because of those issues, because of the increased risk of theft and hijacking? It's a fascinating topic for me. I'd really love to know more, and if you could share your insights and experiences with us, I'd be very grateful. Let's have this chat. It's important. Interestingly, some insurance companies, if you live in Gauteng, KZN, or near the border, insist on your car having 2 trackers, which you can get from the same company. So it's 2 different trackers using 2 different technologies to increase the chances of recovering the car. And it isn't hugely more expensive than a normal tracking service or monthly fee. So you could just sign up for 1 tracking contract and ask for an extra device. And apparently some of the tracking companies just throw it in for free. That also might bring down your insurance premiums. But again, it's another thing which goes to show that these cars are really quite risky compared to other cars in the market. Right, and finally, let's compare this car to some of its rivals. So Isuzu MU-X is a very good option, Ford Everest is a very good option, and the Fortuner. There is the Mitsubishi Pajero Sport, but I'm just going to stick to those 3 cars. So the MU-X, the top spec, the Onyx, slightly cheaper than this. As I mentioned, the Everest, the 4x4 Sport by Turbo, the 2-litre, is about 100,000 Rand more than this. The Isuzu is a bit down on power and has the best fuel efficiency. The Toyota has the most power and one of the larger engines, obviously, which is a great Bakkie. I find that engine to be a bit old and agricultural, however, it's pretty much bulletproof, that 3-litre. So if you don't mind going a little bit slower and having a bit of a grumblier engine, which maybe will outlive you and your grandchildren, the Isuzu is not a bad option. Besides the MU-X, the Pajero Sport, and the Everest, there is an interesting new option on the table. Well, it's not that new because it came out last year. And it's the GWM Tank 300. Now, it's not a 7-seater, it's a bit smaller, but it is a full 4x4. And you can now get a diesel, 2.4 turbo diesel. And the ultra luxury 4x4, which comes fully kitted, is 739,000 Rand, which is 260,000 Rand less than this Fortuner. So now that they've brought out the diesel, that is a very, very interesting option in this segment. Right, thanks for joining me. I hope this review proves useful for you. But we'd love it if you like the video and subscribe to the channel. We are fast approaching 500,000 subs, very exciting. And do dig into our back catalog. If you're shopping for a used car on our site, of which we have nearly 72,000, we've been doing this for a long time. There's over 900 films on our YouTube channel, and there's almost certainly an earlier version of me reviewing a car that you might be interested in. So go check it out, have fun, or if you don't want to watch car reviews, you just want to watch drag races, we've got a lot of those as well. We've actually been shooting drag races since before CarWow existed. Take that, Matt Watson. Anyway, thanks for watching. See you on the next one. Be safe out there, guys. Bye.
Let's find what moves you. Cars.co.za.